We've moved on from college basketball season a bit here in Connecticut, and it's time for baseball. It's April. John Pierson of WTNH is joining me today. John, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks for having me. It's been a while, I guess, a couple of years going for you, right? So
Yeah,
glad to finally be part of it. Thanks for having
yeah,
me.
glad to have you on it, and glad to have you on to talk some baseball because the weather's turning in that direction. We're past the opening week of games here, and I want to talk to you about the show you guys have on WTNH, and that's Inside New York Baseball.
Yeah. We just second year we'll be doing that. Started last year. Kind of find out about 3 weeks before the season started last year that our parent company, Nexstar Broadcasting, wanted to do a baseball show focused on the Yankees and Mets for us to do for 9 stations total in the Nexstar family.
Oh, wow.
The one here in Connecticut, WTNH, 7 of them in New York City, or New York State, I should say, and then WPIX used parts of our show in the city, and then one of the stations in Pennsylvania. So it was on regularly 9 stations and parts of a 10th when PIX ran some of our stuff. So
Very
it
cool.
labor of love, and we had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, I didn't realize the reach that it had beyond the WTNH viewership here.
Yeah. They originally, the talk was to do it as a Yankees, Mets, and Red Sox show, and then decisions above our head were made that they're going to keep it just to New York because I was only going to really run on New York stations,
Yeah.
the majority, and they realized Red Sox content probably wouldn't be popular there. And if they tried to put it on the New England stations, the Yankee and Met content wouldn't be popular there. So who knows? There might be down the road something in the works on the Red Sox. We feel bad here in Connecticut because a lot of times we'll hear,
Yeah.
"Oh, how about the Red Sox? How about the Red Sox?" And it's not our choice. It's just that's what we're supposed to do. We have to make it a New York baseball show.
Yeah. And you know what? At the end of the day, you keep about 2/3 of the state happy. So
That's true.
So
Red Sox fans are tough, though, just as our
yeah.
Yankee fans. Mets fans don't get on us too much, but it's the Yankees and Red Sox fans when you're going one way or the other too much.
So for those who might not have tuned into the show last year, take us through what happens on an episode of Inside New York Baseball and get everyone excited for the season you have coming up.
Yeah, well, we had 3 weeks to kind of come up with a plan, and with COVID, that was another hurdle like everyone has faced
Yeah.
in regular life. So, but basically, we're put behind a little bit because we're not allowed to use moving highlights from Yes Network or SNY. So we have to edit, week recaps of like how the Yankees are doing and Mets are doing with Getty images. So we have to go use still photos to try to tell the story of the Yankees past week, the Mets past week. So that was something, that was probably the first hurdle we hit. But basically start the show, recapping and then maybe getting into some stats and numbers, who's hitting well, who's not playing well. Then we try to like focus on a certain player from each team. Maybe Aaron Judge is on a nice hot streak. And then we get over to the Mets side and, Jeff McNeil coming back from an injury and he's playing well. And then we also include in the show Rich Capola, who was at Fox 61 for a long time, is now here with us at TNH. He's part of the show as well. And then Dom Amore of the Hartford Courant, who is a baseball writer of America member, covered Major League Baseball for many years. He joined us each week to kind of get a little more inside, talk, opinion kind of stuff. So they do like a 3-minute segment. And then we were doing interviews. Last year was a lot of Zoom interviews with former players of the Mets and the Yankees. And we had some great guests on. We had, Dwight Gooden, a 2-part interview with us. John Franco, we had Goose Gossage, Mickey Rivers from the old Yankees teams that won the championships in the late 70s, Roy White. And so we try to give a little bit of, catching up with where are they now, current. We did minor league stories, Brett Beatty, one of the Mets' top prospects. We focused on him last year when he came through and played with the Hartford Yard Goats, against the Hartford Yard Goats with the Binghamton Rumble Pony. So we try to what's now, what's to come, and what's then. So we try to blend it all in.
No, it's a great concept for a show, and I think now is a really interesting time to be doing a New York baseball show, given the state of the Yankees and the Mets right now.
Yeah, it's it's always in New York, and it's always a hot topic. Both teams, the Yankees more so, probably more polarizing in a lot of ways. But the Mets with the new owner willing to spend money and make them a contender again and get them back in the mix. Both teams. I don't know if they're World Series teams this year. It's all going to depend a lot on injuries and health, which every year is the same thing. But yeah, we're excited to do it. We're excited to get down. We just went to the stadium yesterday. To get some content for this week's show and then also next week. This first show for us airs this Saturday, and we did some other things too. Like the Yankees are introducing new items to their concession stand, so we went and checked out some of the new food items that if you're a fan, you're going to the stadium, might be able to take part in. We did a tour of the Mets Museum, which has a lot of the history with the Mets. So. Aside from the day-to-day stuff, that's the things we'll offer here. But both teams, if Jacob deGrom gets healthy for the Mets, Scherzer, I know was a little banged up to start the year. They have the pieces to make a nice run. And the Yankees, certain things about the Yankees worry me. The outfield, Judge, not signing the contract is obviously a big deal, but he's got to stay healthy. Aaron Hicks, who hasn't always been a healthy guy, needs to stay healthy, and Joey Gallo doesn't hit that much.
Yeah.
Strikes out a lot, walks a lot. And when he does hit, it's a home run, but he strikes out often. And then, and then Giancarlo Stanton's going to probably play the outfield a couple of days. So there's a lot of things to factor in. That's why it's hard, 162 games. And sometimes you don't know until game 162 who's going to the playoffs or not.
I saw from your social media, when you were out at the stadium, got to catch up with George Springer, who's a Connecticut guy, played at UConn. What was it like getting to catch up with him? And then what's it like seeing UConn be able to consistently turn out some pros right now and really show that they're one of the top programs in college baseball right now?
Yeah, it's amazing what Jim Penders and his staff have done in stores. For years now. And George right now is the prime guy right now that everyone will look at. He carries the flag for UConn baseball. But you've got Matt Barnes, of course, the Red Sox. You can go on and on. The guys have gone, Mike Holt in the past. I think Ahmed's a Connecticut guy, but you've got other guys who've gone through UConn. And you got guys now who are making their way in, guys who graduated now working that way, like a Pat Winkle. You watch the kid now, Reggie Crawford, who's out with the year, with an elbow issue. He would have probably been a top 10 pick, like one of the top 10 players picked if he hadn't hurt himself this year. He's pitcher, hitter. He's like a Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
But with George, it's funny. You see him yesterday, and we usually try to catch up with the guys every couple of years to see how they're doing. Last time we spoke with him, he's with the Astros, and that was about 4 years ago. But to see him yesterday was great. Covered him as a freshman at UConn, and to see all his success, happy for him, a Connecticut guy who still just loves the game. That's the one thing I noticed about George yesterday. Just you watch him around the cage and in the dugout, he's still that kind of fun-loving, like a kid playing baseball, for
Definitely.
all his success as a, MVP of the World Series and All-Star. And at 32 years old, now one of the veterans on the team, he still brings that energy that you like to see. And he said he's still having a lot of fun doing it. So I'm doing the interview I did with him runs a little bit today at 6, and then tonight in our Sports Extra show at 10:45. He's a dad now. He's married. So we talked about a bunch of things.
Yeah, no, it kind of crazy thinking that he's 32 now. It feels like it feels like he's been in the MLB for a while, but at the same time feels like he hasn't been there for a while. So just crazy to watch him grow from his UConn days and now see what he's been able to do. In terms of talking about these New York baseball teams, I know you were getting into a few things on the teams earlier, but I'm curious from your perspective, if you had to nail down one thing from a Yankee perspective and one thing for a Met perspective for those two teams to have success this year, what are you looking for, from each team there?
The Yankees have to just do a better job of like manufacturing and scoring runs, I think, and not relying on the long ball.
Definitely. Yeah.
And that's a lot of baseball, but I think they tried to make some of those moves, and like guys who maybe make a little bit more contact, or
You hope
not
at least.
showing
Yeah.
they're not showing it yet. They're not hitting very well with runners in scoring position. But maybe that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Scoring runs, the old-fashioned way, if you will, because you got guys who can hit the ball out of the park. But a guy like Isaiah Kiner at Falefa, who they brought in, he's batting ninth. He's playing shortstop as they move Gleyber Torres over. So they have guys who can make contact. I like DJ LeMahieu. I like Josh Donaldson at third.
Yeah.
Those are baseball guys. So they've also gotten themselves stronger up the middle with the return of Aaron Hicks in center and Falefa at short and Gleyber back comfortable at second base. And then the catching situation has to kind of figure itself out. I think they have enough arms. That's another thing. They've got to stay healthy like everybody with the pitching staff. But I think the biggest thing is manufacturing runs and not just waiting for a 2 or 3 run home.
Yeah, no, I think if you're a Yankee fan and you've watched this team the past couple of years, being down 3-4-0, it's hard. They haven't been able to spark those rallies that you'd want to see them in the past.
Yeah, and I liked it, and that's why I liked last year. They brought a couple of guys up who were just hungry and like quick, and they'd get out, steal a base, and it brought life to the team, and he also brought life to the stadium. So I hope they learned something from that last year, and they try to work that in a little bit more this year. Then as far as the Mets, I kind of like what the Mets have. I think the pitching is the key to them. Trying to have a good run there because they had a staff and they lost some of the guys, but they've also gained a Max Scherzer and I think if DeGrom gets healthy and can start 25 games, that would be huge for them this year.
I'm curious. You've covered this landscape for a while here, and for me, being a Yankees fan, it seems a little bit like a bizarro world these past couple of years, where it kind of seems like in some ways the Yankees and Mets have flip-flopped their perspective on things. Where now you've got Steve Cohen running the Mets, who's spending on everybody, and then you see this past offseason, one of the better free agent classes in a while, and the Yankees kind of sat on their hands for most of it.
Yeah, it's weird how they've kind of changed roles. I'd be curious to see how the boss George Steinbrenner is reacting up there, because Steve Cohen is kind of like him. He's willing to spend the money. He gets vocal now on social media. I can imagine what
with George,
like with George Steinbrenner. But his family, they've become a little bit more reserved as far as just being the team that just goes out and just spends money on the big names. I know they have some good prospects in the system. Oswald Peraza and Anthony Volpe, the shortstop prospects. Jason Dominguez. They're probably, he's probably a couple years away. The other guys, you may see them in the Bronx at some point this year. So maybe they think they have enough in the system, and they think they did enough. But you also look at the offer they just made Aaron Judge.
Right.
Aaron Judge is great. Every time we go to the stadium, he is a professional. He's very nice to us. We always talk to him. He always says hello, and he always says yes when we ask him to do an interview. But I think he should have signed that deal. I mean, he's
making a pretty big bet on himself here, and outside of going out and hitting 40-50 home runs this year, it's going to be tough to see a guy like him who's had some injury trouble too, being able to get much more than what they offered him.
Yeah, I mean, he turns 30 this month, so that deal gets him to 36ish, almost 37.
Yeah.
And kind of like, that's a pretty good deal. Now, I hope he stays healthy, and I hope he does hit 40 or 50 home runs. Command more money. But it is a big bet on yourself. And, he had a good year last year. They managed him a little bit better last year, and hopefully he can follow that up with another one and put that injury, tag behind him. Because, some of the injuries obviously weren't his fault either.
Right. Got hit by pitch. Yeah.
The wrist. I mean, that just happens. So, he's a good guy. And that's one thing people ask me, like, every interaction we have with him has been nothing but pleasant, and he remembers your name. And he's engaging when you talk to him. So, I'm rooting for him.
And that's another part too, when from a Yankee perspective, when you're looking to get a deal like that done, not everyone succeeds in the New York marketplace. You know how tough it is. You've seen guys come and go. When you have a guy like Aaron Judge, who could be a face of the franchise, who knows how to work with the media, who knows how to do those little things that send some guys over the edge, it's a big plus.
Yeah. Because some guys do not embrace that. Some guys do not want to go out and talk. They just want to go play some baseball, and they want to go, hide and just, do their job, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, you've got to be, Derek Jeter was the perfect example of that
Right.
in recent memory, just handled it all so well. And that's an interesting thing too about Judge. You go in the locker room now, and in the Yankee locker room, as you first walk in, some of the guys who are just kind of making their way up, their lockers are at the entrance. And as you go further out, as you go to the other end, the lockers get a little bit bigger. And then the two going into like the private area are left for the big stars. So as you walk in and you go through the locker room to the left, is Aaron Judge has what was Brett Gardner's old locker.
Okay.
He's got the big locker there. And I think it used to be Derek Jeter's locker. And then on the other side is Garrett Cole. So they obviously think enough about Aaron Judge to put him in that spot. And I think they want to make him a Yankee forever. But he handles it well. And hopefully they can figure it out, but at the end of this year.
I know we're talking New York baseball here, but I know you deal with this too, being here in the Connecticut marketplace. You got to throw the Red Sox fans a little bit of a bone here. So while I've got you, I've got to, you gave your keys for success for the Yankees and the Mets. If you had to give one for the Red Sox this year, what are you looking for out of them?
I kind of like the Red Sox. I like, the addition of Trevor Story, former Hartford Yard goat. Nice to see that here. I always like, as a Yankee fan, and I don't root the way I used to when I was younger, because, I actually root for people. So, Matt Barnes and the Red Sox is always great when we want to talk to him. So when he's in, I find myself rooting for him to do well. And it's weird. It's taken all my allegiances today. But I like the way the Red Sox play. They just make it look fun, and they've got a potent lineup there. They've got guys up and down who don't seem like pressure bothers them at all. They all seem so loose. And I just like the team ball they play. And again, everything goes to pitching, right? I mean, they have the talent, I think, throughout the field. And they play a little bit of that ball that I like. I wish the Yankees played more of.
Yeah.
And I think Alex Cora is a big part of that. People could say whatever, with the whole cheating stuff, but he's still a baseball guy. And he makes it fun. He seems like a fun manager to play for. So I don't know. I think the Red Sox are gonna have a better year than the Yankees, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, no, I think it wouldn't surprise too many people if that's what happens there. You mentioned Alex Cora, and especially now when we're talking about New York baseball, you've got two guys who are pretty good characters in Aaron Boone and Buck Showalter now at the helm. What's it been like getting to work with those guys and your experience there?
Well, haven't done anything with Buck yet. We haven't been down to the park yet since he's been there. I like, when Buck was a Yankees manager, I always felt bad for him because he's such a good baseball guy, such a good builder of teams, where he, got that team going, and then he's gone, and then they go on to win, the big stretch.
Right.
He laid a lot of the framework for that. So I think the Mets have the right guy. I think he's, I say matured, grown, like he's learned a new way to handle the media, let's say, because he was part of the media. So now he's from a different perspective. So I'm looking forward to actually catching up with him. Funny story is, I remember as a kid, I saw him play with the West Haven Yankees here, which is years ago. So I don't know. That will be one thing. Maybe if I see him, I'll bring up to him, and maybe
open him up a little bit. Yeah.
And Aaron Boone, he's actually been really good to deal with. Everything is more of a press conference now when you go down there. You don't get one-on-one times, but my first meeting with Aaron Boone was at the Little League World Series a few years back, talking about Little League baseball. When one of the Connecticut teams is there. And then I think the following year or 2 years later, he became the Yankees manager, and we did a one-on-one in spring training with him. Again, a baseball guy from a baseball family. I think, he's got enough of that, and he's got enough of the ability to handle the big city with charisma. And, he may not make all the right decisions, but who does? Which manager does? But I think he's got a good temperature on the clubhouse, and watching him with the players on the field, you could tell there's a good relationship, coach manager relationship he has with his club.
I want to look, at your career. You've been doing this for a while now. Do you have a baseball story you've done that sticks out to you as, one of the more memorable or favorite baseball story you've done during your time at TNH?
Oh boy. Well, I started here as an intern, believe it or not, and like the late, like 88, 89. Favorite baseball story. There's been a lot, and I'll probably say something now, and then when we get off, I'll remember, oh, that one too. There's a lot of things. I got to interview the guy I grew up trying to hit, like Don Mattingly.
Yeah.
Don Mattingly, that was a thrill for me because we were talking baseball, but he was going through a tough time. And I mentioned something to him after our interview. I said, "Hey, hang in there, things will get better." And then we started to talk for another 45 minutes
Oh,
about
wow.
life and kids and how to handle certain situations. It was non-baseball. So that was a moment for me that was like, wow, that was pretty
Surreal. Yeah.
yeah, like this is my idol. Now he's asking me how I handled certain aspects of, we were going through a similar thing at the same
Yeah.
time. I was like 2 years ahead of him, and we had that conversation. So that stood out for me. Meeting like last year, doing Goose Gossage, interviews with Goose
Yeah.
Gossage and Dwight Gooden. Those two were really neat for me too, because Dwight Gooden was another one, that 85, 85, 86 time where I was like a teenager, loved baseball, playing in high school. Dwight Gooden last year, I went down to shoot our interview on Long Island, and I got there early. We were scheduled to go at 2:30. I got there at 2. I started setting up all my equipment, my lights, my camera, and at 2:10 he walks in.
Ah.
So now I'm like, oh boy, it's Dwight Gooden, hurry up. And he said, "Oh, take your time. Don't worry about it. I'm early." And then we sat, and while I was setting up, we talked for 20 minutes about non-baseball life things.
Yeah.
And you realize, you know what? In the end, these players and these athletes are just like us.
Yeah.
They have struggles. They have stories. Everything's not as it appears all the time. Yes, they are great at baseball, and they're great at something. And we get to watch them on TV, but those are two of the things that really stick out for me, that are good baseball stories. But then you also go back to like doing my first story with George Springer and pulling that out and looking at him and how much he's grown up.
Yeah.
And then talking to him yesterday and still seeing the same person I did something with 13 years ago,
Yeah.
So
No, it's
so many.
no, great career you've had. It's cool to hear those stories. I'll get you out on this one. You mentioned while you were at Yankee Stadium, you got to do a little of the new concessions.
Yeah.
Favorite concession item that you were able to see there?
Oh, all of it. They had Eric Dobratz put a story together that ran in the show yesterday, because we stayed there for that, and then we stayed for batting practice to talk to players and Springer and a couple of the Yankees. But favorite concession item? Ooh, I mean, of the new things, they had this Marcus Samuelson, who's a world-renowned chef. He's been on Chopped and a bunch of TV shows. He came up with this new spicy chicken sandwich that will be for sale there. He also does like a chicken and waffle thing, but the spicy chicken sandwich he did was phenomenal. And they also did this new blue, white, and gold milkshake that has chunks of cheesecake and some graham crackers and vanilla. It was phenomenal. I definitely ate too much, and it was a nice, it was nice for them to offer. But they had a crunch burger from was it Bobby Flay?
Oh yeah.
They did a bacon crunch burger that was really good. Yeah, we were both stuffed. Eric and I were both stuffed, and I probably will still go to the game and maybe get a hot dog and have a beer and sit and watch the game. But if I see some of that, I would probably get that spicy chicken sandwich for sure.
All right. Gonna have to keep that in mind when I head out to the stadium this year.
Yeah.
But John, I really appreciate the time. And before I let you go, let everyone know how they could catch Inside New York Baseball.
So Inside New York Baseball will run every Saturday on WCTX, our sister station at TNH, at 10:30. They're talking about re-airing it at another time. I don't know exactly yet, but it's definitely every Saturday, 10:30 p.m. On WCTX. Then you could also watch all of the segments on WTNH.com if you go to the sports tab. And then on the drop down, there's this Inside New York Baseball. So all of last year's shows are still on there. And then this year, the new shows as they come out and air will end up each segment on the website as well. So we're looking forward to it. It's we're having fun already. It's a long, grueling summer with doing it, but at the same time, it's a labor of love for all of us working on the show.
Yeah, no, it's great. Really enjoy the show and looking forward to it this season. So, John, really appreciate the time and thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, no problem. Love the Yukon hat, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. We'll have to have you back on another time. We could talk some Yukon sports.
We can go on and on about Yukon and its transfer portal. I don't know what
Yeah,
the heck's going on.
I know. Just when you think it's baseball season now, it still might be college basketball season.
It always is. Thanks, Jared. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Absolutely. Thanks, John.